Good afternoon, paisans of the YTPC. It is a beautiful Friday today, a little chilly, but just fine. Hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving here in the States. Hope everybody else had just a great Thursday. So today, I'm sure you can tell by the title, I'm kind of doing a versus. Escudo and Dunhill Navy rolls, deluxe Navy rolls. So, smoking my Strombock Meerschaum with little golf ball dimples, of course. So let's start off with Escudo. Escudo is probably my favorite blend so far. Only been smoking a pipe for about 10 months. But here's what I think of it. They're both vapors, no Cavendish like Luxury Bullseye Flake or Dobie's Circles. Escudo seems to have a really creamy body to it, and it makes me think of almost like a malt. Not a milkshake, but you know, a malt. Not super sweet, but nice and creamy and a little sweet. The Preak in this starts off a little sharp, but it kind of settles in. And I think that the sweet spot is probably the second third of the bowl, if that makes any sense to you. It just seems to be where everything does everything right. So. The Preak settles in a little bit, and it's just all good. So, I think smoking, more than a few coins of this, you might be doing yourself a disservice. It really just, by the end of the bowl, it's kind of had it. As far as the Navy rolls go from Dunhill, this was an interesting one. Right off the bat, when I opened the tin, it made me think of my old grapevines I used to have, which is why I did the Italian music at the beginning. You get the little fruitiness out of it, and a little bit of grassy underneath. It's just a real pleasant smell of the tin. So is Escudo, but this one's just a little bit different. Now, the first light gives a lot of the grassiness, and halfway through, the Preak starts to come up. So it's kind of like the opposite of the Escudo, where the Preak kind of settles into the background, or at least averages out. This one, the Preak sort of comes up. So this one sort of builds, which is kind of cool. And it stays lit just fine. Both of them, now, we have kind of a humid climate here, and during the fall and the winter, the humidity kind of goes down. But these stayed kind of wet. So it might do you a little good to dry them out beforehand. But the Escudo especially smokes a little wet, no matter what you do. As far as them versus each other, we got a little list of pros and cons here. Or at least, their attributes, their attributes in each. The big question for me is the Dunhill worth the extra bucks? Because it's like 15 or 16 bucks a tin here in the States, as opposed to the 9 or 10 that you get a Escudo for. So let's run it down here. Escudo, you got the creamy malt kind of thing going on. A little more Preak, I think, overall. The Escudo smokes pretty dry. The Dunhill smokes a little wet, no matter what you do with it. The Escudo is a little more straightforward. It's a little more honest throughout the bowl. It doesn't really do a lot of building, and like I said, the Preak kind of settles in, but it doesn't really go to the background. It just kind of stays even throughout. So there's not a lot of complexity, but I'm not looking for a lot of complexity out of it. I'm just looking for a solid blend, which is why Escudo is really my favorite vapor, at least, if not my favorite blend. So there's that. Like I said, the Navy rolls, the Preak blend, the Preak kind of builds a little bit. It's a little grassier, I think, and it's a little more complex. So, to answer the big question, do you like Preak? Is that like the be-all, end-all in a vapor for you? And there's other blends that have a little more Preak, that have a lot more Preak in them. Bayou Morning, for example, or Bayou Morning Flake even more. There's others. But if it's the be-all end-all for you, go for Escudo. It's cheaper anyway. So for me, my plan is like this. I'm going to keep Escudo on hand as an everyday smoke. It's you know, a third cheaper. I do like Navy rolls a lot. It's different. It's not my favorite. So I'd keep some around, keep some in my cellar, just in case it goes away, and break it out kind of like a special occasion sort of thing. So that's really kind of where I'm at with all the stuff. You know, is it worth 15, 16 bucks a tin if I'm going to want to smoke it every day? No, I don't think so. But that's just me. So, you know, what can I say? I don't own a yacht. So that's really my take on the whole thing, folks. Let me know what you think. I know there's a lot of Escudo lovers out there, and there's a lot of Dunhill fanatics, which I like a lot of Dunhill blends. But like I said, it just doesn't put it over the top for me. But Escudo is still probably my #1. Anyway, folks, have a great weekend. Thanks for tuning in, and salute.